Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. Welcome to episode 22 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Scary.
Look at our Halloween episode. We made it all the way to Halloween.
Halloween.
It's awesome. We're testing out some new microphones this week, so very exciting on that.
Tonar.
See how the sound goes. Oh yeah, Tonar. They want to sponsor. So.
Yes, yeah. Tonar. Hey, you like us? Tonar, home of the mics that we don't bump.
So, I'm as today is the day that episode 10 dropped, our first wife swap that we did.
First wife swap.
That dropped this morning, and I, as I was listening to it, we talked about, hope we're not the only people listening, but we hit over 400 followers on Facebook, and we had our 500th download of our show. So pretty cool. Pretty cool that we've got people that are seeming to really enjoy us.
Yes. We got, I think there's some folks in India.
We've had Iceland.
Yeah.
Well, and I talked about many, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to give a shout out to our listeners in Mainz, Germany.
Mainz, Germany.
Yeah, Mainz, Germany.
I don't think it was Mainz.
Is it Frankfurt?
It's close. I think it's close to Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, yeah. Shout out to Frankfurt. Love you guys.
Yeah, I actually had that. It's so far they've listened to pretty much every episode to date. They haven't listened to 9 or 10 yet, but they seem to be a faithful listener so far.
I love that.
So shout out to our listeners in Hinesville, Georgia, and Columbia and Ohio. there are first listeners every Sunday morning before I get up.
I think I know who Columbia, Ohio is. I think that's Jennifer.
Jennifer?
Yeah, Jennifer.
Well, that's cool.
If that is Jennifer, shout out Jennifer. Miss you. Haven't seen you in like 20 years.
Well, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Give us a shout out because,
Please.
I mean, like I said, they beat me up every morning.
Dude, you get up early.
I do. I get up very early. So if you would like to contact us, let us know so we can give you a shout out. Make sure you go to our webpage, nerderyandmurdy.com. Get our email info. Talk more about that at the end, kind of.
Yes.
But yeah, so really, really enjoy that.
And if it is Jennifer, next time you're in town, let me know. I would like to see you. It's been 20 years.
There you go. And as I've said, I do listen to our latest episode every Sunday because I want to listen as a listener would as it drops.
Okay,
even though we've gone through all the edits, everything like that, I still want to hear it as a listener would.
Okay.
And so that's my Sunday morning ritual with my coffee.
Right on.
So I go in, I open each platform, make sure the episode's hit, and then I stop on one to listen. Last Sunday, for episode 9 that dropped, I opened Spotify.
Okay.
And I noticed something I'd never seen before.
What's
the
that?
progress bar at the bottom of the screen?
Yes.
It was a lightsaber. It was a little Anakin lightsaber, and as the show went along, the blade extended. And I was like, "Oh my God.
How did we turn that on?"
Well, I'd never seen that before. So, I checked other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
None of them had it. So I did a quick Google search.
9 is Star Wars on TV.
Yes, that's exactly what that episode was. So I did do a quick Google search and found out that Spotify adds that on Star Wars music. So somehow we got tagged as music.
Okay.
And so it's not only was that, but the lightsaber can change.
Oh.
So as you click it, it'll become different lightsabers. So I chose Darth Vader, of course.
Of course. As you will.
Right. And got my red glowing blade, but then it's gone away.
Uh-huh.
So, I checked again. It was fun while it lasted. You can still get it on Star Wars music collections, but I guess it picked us up for a minute and then...
Oh, hey, these guys aren't music.
And then went away. I don't know. So,
Man.
it was fun watching that. I was like, oh my God, it's a lightsaber. So I had a lot of fun. Hi, Bella. Bella is staring at me, sitting under your feet.
Hello. Hey, did we say who we were? Just out of curiosity. I'm Zig with your nerdery. I think I got it.
I'm Jeffrey with your murdery.
All right.
We're so...
This is episode 22.
We're episode 22, and we still don't know how to do this right. Wow. So, a couple of other things. I was listening to another podcast, and this is exactly where I talk about where sometimes during an episode, I swear to God, I'll black out. Or, once we're done with an episode, a lot of that imagery is gone.
Yeah.
A lot of the subject matter is gone until I go back and listen.
It's like live theater. It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot like live theater. So
So I'm listening to this podcast, and they're talking about the Micmacs tribe. And I was listening to it on the way home, and I'm like, where in the hell have I heard the name Micmacs? And I was going and going and going. Finally, I was going back and I was listening to some edits because we had to do an edit point on episode 11. And there we go, the Micmacs from your episode.
Jean-Pierre Junot.
So I did have to have one correction on episode 20. I was talking about the 1900s, and I called it the 19th century. So,
Meh. It's all right.
like I've said, we're idiots. We don't know anything. So, but this is Halloween. So
Halloween.
As we started off with this, I hope everybody enjoyed our theme song that we chose for this episode.
Yep.
We thought it was pretty cool, little funky.
Yeah, little funky Halloween.
Yeah. So we'll be back to our normal theme song next week. But welcome to Halloween, and hopefully everybody's safe. I think we have some Halloween themed stuff this week.
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, we do.
Well, if you don't have anything else, then let's get started into it.
All righty then. So I pulled Jeffrey and Will. Hi, Will. How you doing? You doing okay? You doing all right? He's just nodding. Hey. Again, it's like a brownie fudge sundae with caramel drizzle on top. No. with extra nuts. Oh,
I can't even anymore.
The face I'm getting.
I can't do this. I quit.
No, don't quit. So yeah, we polled everybody on their top 5 favorite scary movies. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and we do have some overlap on this. So on my first top 5 little known scary movies, the first one is called The Nesting.
Okay.
Now this was kind of a low budget piece. It is also known as Phobia and Massacre Mansion. It's a 1981 American slasher film directed and co-written by Armin Weston and starring Robin Groves, Michael Lally, John Carradine, and Gloria Graham. And this is her final film role. Its plot follows an agoraphobic novelist who rents a rural mansion that she comes to find out is haunted. So she's an agoraphobic, so she's afraid to leave the house, and her house is haunted.
I've never heard of this movie.
Oh my God, I love this movie. And there's a scene where these hands come up out of this pond, and there's like 100 hands coming up out of a pond when someone's running away.
Sounds familiar. That could be a theme in many Halloween episodes. I don't know.
It's pretty groovy, and I always liked it. And I always thought, I don't know why this movie doesn't get more play. It's one of those ones that kind of fell through the cracks. I think it was like a drive-in movie, and then a video, a video rental movie. But yeah, if you haven't seen The Nesting, it's a good one because, again, she's afraid to leave her house and her house is haunted. And honestly, it actually has a kind of a happy ending in the end because you find out as the story progresses. And I don't think I'm giving anything away because the movie is like 30 or 40 years old.
There's no spoilers. You're well past the spoiler rule.
Yeah, so it turns out that she was actually born in that house. Mm-hmm. That house used to be a brothel, and there was a murder that occurred, and they massacred everybody in the brothel.
Well, in lots of Halloween movies and quote-unquote happy ending, even though, a lot of your really, really good ones, it has a happy ending, and then there's a quick stab at the end that, leads you to believe it's, the horror is still going to continue on after you have left.
Yes. Well, she ends up basically befriending the ghosts because they were there trying to protect her, and the people that they were hurting were actually trying to hurt her, but she didn't know it.
Right.
So it's a great one though. It's really, really frightening because you really don't know what's going on until 15 minutes toward the end. Mm-hmm. Good piece. So definitely want to give that a check out. The next one is Magic, 1978 movie.
I had forgotten all about Magic.
Magic scared the crap out of me as a kid.
And I remembered the other day, for some reason, Magic crossed my mind, and I'd forgotten how much I love that movie.
Yeah. And Anthony Hopkins, who honestly, normally I'm not a big fan of Anthony Hopkins. I just never have been. But he's really good in this. He plays Charles Corky Withers. He fails in his first attempt at professional magic. And his mentor, Merlin, says that he needs to have a better gimmick. So Corky comes back as a combination magician and ventriloquists.
You're good.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Should have did some more vocal warm-ups this morning. And a foul-mouthed dummy named Fats. He becomes a huge success, and Corky's agent, Ben Green, is on the verge of signing him for his own television show, but Corky bails out and goes up to the Catskills. And his talent agent thinks that Corky is afraid of success, but actually Corky doesn't want to take the TV network's required medical examinations because he's afraid the doctors might find out he's crazy. And that even off stage, he can't control Fats. It's basically a manifestation of Corky's id.
Right.
And, horrible things ensue up in the Catskills and this old abandoned.
Oh, it's a great one. Creepy movie.
Yes. Okay. So Prince of Darkness. Yes. This is on your list.
So Prince of Darkness, to me, is one of the scariest movies.
I would agree with that.
Well, and why it's so scary for me is not necessarily the monster, not necessarily the jump scares and everything. Mm-hmm. What terrifies
me... Which it has.
It does. Oh, it has a lot of jump scares. What terrifies me about this movie is the dream. Mm-hmm. The dream that everybody's having, and you get little tiny pieces of the dream.
Yes.
And as the movie goes on, you get more and more and more of it till the very end when you get the full dream. And it's such creep factor once you get to it and find out really what has been going on. And you keep hearing that voice that's like, this is not a dream. This is real. We are from your future. It's giving me goosebumps right now thinking about this movie.
Will, have you ever seen Prince of Darkness?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
John Carpenter.
Yeah. At the height of his, he did 3 movies right in a row that he considers his apocalypse trilogy. The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and another one on my list, In the Mouth of Madness. Those 3 films are just, it's, and that's the thing. You never really get to see the bad thing. He never completely shows it. And I think that's what makes these 3 movies so scary, because you never really get a good look at the bad thing that's going on. You just get glimpses of it.
Right.
Which makes it all the more frightening. Now the story, I'm sorry, because it was written, directed, and scored by John Carpenter. It stars Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong, and Jameson Parker, who I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else besides Simon and Simon.
Right.
But he was so good in this.
Yeah, he was excellent in this one. Wasn't this one where he had the porn mustache?
Yes, he had the porn mustache in this. And also Lisa Blount. Of course, it's the second installment of the Apocalypse trilogy. So basically, a group of quantum physicist students in Los Angeles are asked to assist a Catholic priest to investigate an ancient cylinder of liquid discovered in a monastery, which they come to find out is a sentient corporeal embodiment of evil, or I think they just call it Satan.
It's a portal to hell.
Yeah, basically it's a portal to hell.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, at the end, someone gets trapped there and they can't get them out.
Yeah. And I mean, someone gets pulled in as the demon or possibly Satan hand is coming out of the portal, and then I think somebody sacrifices themselves to close the portal, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and on the other side, the only thing you get is them basically floating in liquid, almost like they're drowning, which that's what got me.
It's the dream for me. Just that dream is such creep factor.
Oh, it's so good though. All right, so my next one is In the Mouth of Madness, which I just mentioned. It's that 3rd installment of the Apocalypse trilogy by John Carpenter. So in the midst of an unspecified disaster, Dr. Wren visits John Trent, a patient in a psychiatric hospital. Trent recounts his story. Trent was a freelance insurance investigator who had lunch with a colleague, the owner of an insurance company, who asked Trent to work with his largest client, investing in a claim by New York-based Arcane Publishing. During their conversation, Trent is attacked by a man wielding an axe, who, after asking him if he reads popular horror novels, Sutter Kane is shot dead. Sutter Kane. The man was Kane's agent and went insane after reading one of Kane's books. And that's the thing. Everybody who reads this book goes crazy and starts trying to kill people. So, and at one point, there are people who their eyes get glassy, so you can always tell when they've read it. So at one point, and it's Sam Neill is Trent.
There's a relatively new, and you dropped something. It is what it is.
Yep.
There's a relatively new series. If I recall correctly, I think it came from anime or what is it, manga? Am I pronouncing that right? Manga. About a death book.
Death Note.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Korean, the kids are all over Death Note.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right.
I honestly, I'm not a big fan of ninja manga. I want spaceships in my manga, so. But I've watched some of it.
Miranda likes manga. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Cree likes it. Kelsey and Chloe were both really into it growing up. So it's on. It's around. It's not too bad. But yeah, Death Note's they were really into that for a while. I mean, like dressing up like Death Note characters, stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's the same sort of general idea. Don't read this book. It's a scary book. Don't read it. It'll make you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a Cthulhu.
Right.
Yeah. The last movie that I had was The Keep, basically following the commencement of Operation Barbarossa in 1951. Unit
41.
41. Did I say 51?
You did.
Look, look, there it is. Look, 1941, right there in my notes.
I'm with you.
A unit of Wehrmacht under the command of Captain Klaus Worman occupies an uninhabited citadel near a village in Romania. And it controls the Danube Pass of the Carpathian Mountains. Now, what they don't realize that there are these weird metal pins inside this citadel, and they start trying to remove them because they think they're silver. They're not. Well, there's silver in them, but what they're doing is they're holding in a demon. The demon starts killing things inside of the citadel. Are killing these Germans inside the citadel. So the demon's name is Radu Molasar, and he kills a bunch of soldiers. And they bring this scientist or historian out of a concentration camp to basically, because he's kind of an expert in this sort of thing. And him and his daughter. And he starts investigating. Well, the demon befriends him, and it cures his scleroderma, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the great Ian McKellen playing someone who is actually quite a bit older than he actually is at the time, because this is 1983. And he basically makes a deal with the thing to start killing the Germans. So what's great about this movie is Nazis get wiped out. Which is, I think, why I like to keep so
Always
much.
a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, they start wiping out Nazis. But the thing actually has some more malevolent tendencies, and they end up trapping the beast back in the keep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of the scenes inside the castle itself are just beautiful. The attention to detail to uniforms specifically, and some of the lighting effects. But granted, this was made by Michael Mann, the same guy that did the first 2 seasons of Miami Vice, did Crime Story, did Manhunter, things like that. It's really in his wheelhouse, and it's beautifully shot.
Well, and here's one of the things about horror movies that sometimes you get, sometimes you don't. And I think the best horror movies are the ones that are beautiful sets. They're beautifully done. One of the considered one of the best horror movies, and it's always in a top 10 list, and it's because of its beauty, is Suspiria.
Suspiria is beautiful. Because I'm surprised you didn't put that in your list.
Because Suspiria is not that scary to me.
Yeah,
and when I think about that, it's just a very, very pretty movie. But yes, Suspiria is just, it's brilliant colors and the soundtrack. And then I haven't watched the re-release.
Oh, they re-released it?
Nice. It's out. So I'm very curious to go back and watch and see if they kept the beauty of it, because, you know, as much as gore and beauty can be, it was pretty.
Well, that ballet of violence, kind of thing,
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of trepidatious about the new Suspiria.
Well, I am too, which is why I haven't just rushed out to watch it. I mean, the first one was beautiful. I mean, literally, for a horror movie, for gore and blood, but it was just it was vibrant colors. And, you know, plus the soundtrack along with it. So.
Yes. Well, that's basically it for my list. Again, I know we had an overlap with Prince of Darkness.
Yep.
On Jeffrey's list, the first one was Prince of Darkness.
Yep. And then I had The Exorcist, which is a 1973 American horror film directed by William Friedkin, produced and written for the screen by William Peter Blatty, based on the 1971 novel of the same name by Blatty. This was, to this day, this is one of the scariest horror movies to me. About a young girl who gets possessed by a demon and has to go through an exorcism. This was another one.
I need a young priest and an old priest.
Yes, Max von Sydow was phenomenal in this.
So good in this.
Linda Blair can't escape this role to this day.
No, she cannot,
because this was it. She did a parody horror movie,
Repossessed,
where she got to replay her, or got to be in a horror movie again, but parodying herself. But the visuals in here and the overall story, the backmasking effects with the demon face that pops up throughout the movie, is just horrifying.
Yes.
I cannot stress how just to this day this movie holds up.
Yeah.
It was based on at least one, but I think it may have been based on several real documented exorcisms.
Oh, from back in like the 50s.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the Catholic Church pretty much says, no, we don't do exorcisms, but
right on.
They have guidelines for exorcism.
Yes.
So this was just listening to that voice come out of her mouth, her head twist all the way around, that spider walk, it's just freaky.
The pea soup projectile vomit.
Yes. God. So to this day holds up.
Yeah.
The second one on my list was The Shining.
The Shinin.
Based on a Stephen King book, which I'm actually we'll talk about Stephen King at a later date. But he hates this movie.
Does he really?
The 1980 Shining, he hates it.
But it's Kubrick.
He hated it. He couldn't stand it, which is...
But he liked... Okay, so I know he liked Carrie, right?
He loved Carrie.
Yeah.
He loved Carrie. But he just did not like this adaptation. Now, I can understand why, because this goes away from the book pretty bad.
Yeah.
It kind of starts off with the book, but then leaves it horrifically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are not in The Shining 1980, which they put in The Shining in the 90s that came out in ABC.
Yeah.
Which
I don't think I ever saw. Was it?
Oh, I did. It was good. It was very good, and it was way more true to the book.
Okay.
But this movie is based in a hotel in the Colorado Rockies. A man and his wife accept a position as the off-season caretakers. The man, Jack Torrance, he's a recovering alcoholic. He brings his wife and his small child, Danny. And Danny is gifted with The Shining, and it's the ability to see in the future, telepathically talk with others with The Shining, see things that are happening where they are not. This culminates later into the re-release Dr. Sleep, which was very good as well, and I actually like the movie for that.
So Dr. Sleep is Danny, right?
Dr. Sleep is Danny, correct, as an adult, and he himself is a recovering alcoholic, or he may still be an alcoholic in Dr. Sleep. But yeah, in this movie, there's a storm that comes in and traps them in the hotel, and the spirits or demons or whatever that are in this hotel start to infect the family, especially Jack, the main character. And I thought Kubrick did great with The Shining. The music, the foreboding music telling you, there's something around the corner. And for me, the twins, the little girl twins.
Come play with us.
Come play with us, Danny. Come play with us. And to watch that little kid just sit there shaking in horror as he watches the events. It's just, The Shining to me is brilliant.
Right on.
The next one on my list was Hellraiser 1987.
Yes.
I actually like all the Hellraiser movies because I think they're especially creepy.
This one was on Will's list as well. I don't think Will's going to talk about his list, so I'm going to talk about it for him.
Yeah.
Yes, this was also on Will's list.
Well, and I mean, this is about a puzzle box. The whole series is about a puzzle box where once you open it, you basically open yourself a portal to hell where you get tortured.
Yes.
By the Cenobites. And the Cenobites are what, oh my gosh, Chatterbox is creepy. Pinhead, of course. I think the Cenobites are just some of the creepiest horror movie monsters out there.
Yes.
Their depictions of hell are pretty horrifying itself. These are also some pretty gory movies.
Jesus, whoa.
Oh yeah. They're just really, really terrifying.
Shout out to Andrew Robinson, who plays the dad in the original Hellraiser. He is Garrick from Deep Space Nine.
Oh,
the Cardassian.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It's hard to tell with all that makeup on, but yeah, he has the voice.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. So yeah, Hellraiser 1987 is just a terrifying movie about a man. Again, he opens the box. He ends up moving into a house to rebuild his strained relationship with his second wife, Julia, who had an affair with Larry's brother, Frank. And they have a teenage daughter, Christy, who becomes a part of this as well. Both Larry, I think, and the mother end up going to hell, and the mother gets possessed. I mean, it's been so long since I've watched this one. It's just, it's very gory and it's very creepy.
Yes.
But the Cenobites are the biggest thing in here that make it so creepy. The next one I had on my list was Friday the 13th, 1980. And Friday the 13th spawned so many other things. You know, we covered the murders at Lake Bodom that they think may have been the inspiration for Friday the 13th. This was an American slasher film about a group of kids who go to a Camp Crystal Lake where they get brutally murdered by a killer.
Yeah, psychopath.
You know, I don't want to give away too much on these because I'd love people to go watch these.
It's 1980. It was 40 years ago.
Yeah, but people who haven't watched these, I don't want to spoil the ending of these ones specifically.
Yeah, especially the first one. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. Okay,
really go through this and watch.
Yes.
Friday the 13th is where the beginnings of a lot of horror movie rules come about. Don't have sex.
Don't have sex. Don't do drugs. Don't drink.
You know, all the things you don't do, because if you do those, you're going to die in this movie.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Friday the 13th, as I was talking about earlier, this is one of those horror movies that at the end, you think everything's fine and groovy, and then there's one last jump scare that tells you this is going on, that this is going to continue.
And it set up the series.
Oh gosh, it set up a ton of... Not only did it set up a ton of Friday the 13th movies, but Friday the 13th, the TV series, where they were collecting horror artifacts that were, you know, it was a lot like Warehouse 13 almost, you know, so that...
Actually, the Friday the 13th series was really, really good.
It was excellent.
I do not think it gets enough... I don't think it gets enough play.
No, I thought Friday the 13th, the TV series was great. Yeah. Love that. And last one, my honorable mention for the scariest movie of all time, and it's because the movie studios thought enough to release this comedy turd, and it's the worst movie ever in history, and that's Earth Girls Are Easy.
Earth Girls Are Easy.
How can you put a movie with Jeff Goldblum, Jim Carrey,
Gina Davis, Damon Wayans, and it is a complete, utter turd fest. That is the shittiest movie Oh my God!
Time.
And the designs for the aliens and their ship, it was very atomic 1950s. It was really, really brilliant. and it just kind of died.
It was
Died on the
terrible. So that hits my honorable mention as
Earth Girls
as
Are
the
Easy.
scariest movie of all time, because it's scary if you actually take time to watch it. Don't just
don't do it.
Just don't. So
Okay. On to Will's list, because Will didn't want to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it for him. Of course, Hellraiser, which we already discussed, was on his list. His next film was Candyman in 1992, and I'm so glad he listed this. I love this movie.
Please remember that this is one of Will's favorites for when we get to my story.
Okay. All right. Written and directed by Bernard Rose, starring Virginia Madsen and the great Tony Todd, who also does a lot of Star Trek. Xander Berkeley, Kessie Lemons, and Vanessa E. Williams. It was based on Clive Barker's short story, The Forbidden. The film follows a Chicago graduate student completing a thesis on urban legends and folklore, which leads her to the legend of the Candyman and the ghost of an artist and son of a slave who was murdered in the late 19th century for his relationship with a daughter of a wealthy white man. And Virginia Madsen just gets railroaded through this whole film. That's what I love best about it. Well, I mean, not love, but I mean, it's just like, oh my God, she's not doing anything wrong. She's just trying to uncover the problems. And you know, in the end, she ends up, well, I don't want to give it away, but again, 1992, so
right.
30 years ago. She ends up joining Candyman at the end and getting her ex because he said the thing in the mirror.
Well, okay, so I said it earlier, and then I kind of recanted on it, and we went back. When we talk about spoilers for horror movies, I guess for those, we should avoid them a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if people, you need to not know what the end is if you're really going to go enjoy these.
Yeah.
If you go into them knowing what the end is, it might not be as enjoyable. So maybe we made a mistake on some, but whatever.
Yeah, but yes, you definitely want to go give Candyman a shot. It takes place in and around the old Cabrini Green in Chicago, which was a housing project that was pretty rough. I think it's gone now. But yeah, it deals with the ideas of institutional racism and poverty, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Candyman, as well as the idea of true scientific investigation into something, or sociological investigation into something, which it really follows, because that's what she is doing. She's studying this effect. And, you know, at one point they think it's just someone who's breaking into houses and stealing things in the guise of Candyman. And that's when she discovers there really is a Candyman. Really, really good. So yes, if you haven't seen Candyman, you need to go out there and check that out, especially tonight on Halloween.
Yeah.
Go check out Candyman.
Yeah, have a little marathon of the movies we're suggesting.
Yeah, you sure? Why not? Yeah, I mean, you may not be able to hit them all, but definitely there are a few. Prince of Darkness you need to see. Candyman you definitely need to see. Maybe The Shining. It's kind of long, but yeah, no, I'm with you. It's pretty damn scary. His third film was The Conjuring 1, which was 2013 American supernatural horror, directed by James Wan and written by Chad Hayes and Carrie Hayes. It is the inaugural film in the Conjuring universe franchise. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga stars Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators and authors associated with prominent cases of haunting. Their purportedly real-life reports inspired the Amityville horror story and film franchise. The Warrens come to the assistance of the Perrone family, who experience increased disturbing events in their farmhouse in Rhode Island.
So is The Conjuring 1 Annabelle?
No.
So that's one of the others then,
yes.
Annabelle. So
I think it's Conjuring 1, Conjuring 2, Annabelle,
maybe.
And then something else.
There's another one, I think, either being released or is about to be released. They're all of them are based on real life reports from the Warrens.
Yes.
And Annabelle is I know about Annabelle from, and this is why we drink, because half of their podcast is paranormal, and they've covered Annabelle and the Warrens in several of their deals. But Annabelle, before the Warrens died, was in their little artifact horror basement behind a glass case.
Why? I mean, okay, I personally don't believe in this, but if I did, I certainly wouldn't have something in a glass case. Maybe a lead-lined coffin.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what the material's made of,
Yeah.
but the Warrens had a whole paranormal,
Yeah. Little shop.
basically museum.
Yeah.
It wasn't a shop. They weren't selling shit out of there. They said everything in there was dangerous and was there for the world's protection, basically.
His fourth film was Conjuring 2, which follows The Conjuring. It's a screenplay by Chad Hayes, Carrie Hayes. It's the second installment in the Conjuring series and the third installment in the Conjuring universe. Okay, so yeah. So I think Annabelle may be number 2 in the series.
Maybe.
Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga reprise their roles as the Warrens. The film follows the Warrens as they travel to the United Kingdom to assist the Hodgson family. Hodgson. Yeah. Who were experiencing poltergeist activity at their Enfield council house in 1977, which later became referred to as the Enfield poltergeist. So again, yeah, the same sort of thing, them going out in there. And this is definitely one you want to check out as well, especially it being 2016, because some of the effects are a little more nuanced.
Sure.
You know, because some of the effects we're talking about, they are super gory and super bloodfest because that's what they had available, you know. Okay, we need a wave of blood to come down these stairs. Okay. So they just dumped a bunch of blood down the stairs as opposed to CGing it. And it is a little more visceral.
Right.
And for Will's final film, this is one I had a hard time finding. His final film was I'll Come Up With Something.
So I actually thought of one that...
he just gave me something. It's called The Right.
The Right. Well, since we don't know anything about that,
I have not seen The Right.
We'll have to. We may have to cover that another time. But there we go. So there's The Right.
Hold on.
Well, so while you're looking that up, one that I thought probably should, and it's funny because it's just like we go to the action movies. So many that I can think of belong in here that I think about later.
Yeah.
A movie that I forgot about that probably should have gotten an honorable mention in here, especially because it's the sort of possible story of why the story of Frankenstein came to be. And it's the movie Gothic.
Oh, I love Gothic.
Gothic is really, really good.
You know, they made like 3 or 4 of those films.
Did they really?
Yeah. At about that time, of course, you got Frankenstein Unbound, which is kind of a tail end of Gothic. But they did Gothic. They did Bloody Poetry, which was actually also a play. And I'm trying to remember the other one, but yes, that the night at the Villa Diodati where they told the ghost stories.
Yes, because that's a true story where they that's the story where all these people, Lord Byron and Mary Shelley and her husband
Percy Shelley and Dr. Polidori, who ended up writing Vampire, which Bram Stoker made Dracula from.
Correct.
Yes.
And what they did is they went to this old creepy
Claremont
house. I'm sorry?
Claire Claremont was the last person in that group.
Oh, yeah. But what they did is they went to this creepy house and they sat around and told scary stories and determined who was the best scary storyteller. And it ended up being Mary Shelley, who turned it into the book Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. And Gothic is a horror movie. It's of course false, well, we assume, but it's the tale of the scary events that happened at that house that evening that ended up becoming what would become Frankenstein.
Well, it probably didn't help that they got blasted on opium and liquor.
Oh yeah, they were high as kites while they were telling these stories.
Yeah,
so Gothic is really good.
On the Lake Zurich, in the middle of a storm, just getting blasted out of their brains, and they tell these scary stories.
Yeah. So did you find out about The Right?
Yes, The Right is a supernatural horror film directed by Mikael Hafstrom, written by Michael Petroni. It's loosely based on Matt Baglio's book, The Right, Making of the Modern Exorcism, which itself is based on actual events and witnessed recounted American then exorcist in training Father Gary Thomas, and his experiences of being sent to Rome to be trained, the work daily with veterinary clergy men of the practice. So
I find exorcisms to be particularly creepy. Especially they've got some very well documented exorcisms out there, and then of course the church will quite often try to say no, that didn't happen or anything. But when people start talking in voices that they couldn't possibly have, low guttural tones from a little girl or anything, when things start moving around rooms, telekinesis, when they start contorting their bodies in almost impossible styles, whether you're going to believe any of that or not, these are pretty well documented cases, and
Yes.
I think exorcisms are just freaky, and there's some freaky ones out there.
yeah.
So good one, Will.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you. I'm glad because I was going to call you out for not having anything.
No, outstanding.
Yeah, good pull.
So I think everybody's got some horror movies
That's right.
that they need to listen to.
And what I find fascinating is we only had 2 overlaps. Well, one I overlapped with you on, and one that you overlapped with Will on, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Outstanding. Good. Glad
Good
we got
stuff.
to give some good movies for people to watch and be scared with.
Sorry we had to rush through them so quick, but we had 13. So.
I didn't feel like we rushed through them. I thought they were covered fairly well. I didn't think that I covered mine very well because I've got them in my head. I can see it, but they're scary
I had some
to me.
notes. I had some notes ready to back you up. I'm like, oh no, he hit that. We're good. We're good. I was following along.
So no, awesome. So we can go, I guess, if that's that on that, people have movies to watch, and
Yes,
we can move over to the murder side of the house.
Murder.
Appropriate for Halloween. So I said to remember Candyman.
Candyman.
So keep that in mind as we go through this story.
Candyman's in my head.
I got all my
Okay, seatbelt's on.
seatbelt on. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
I got my my references from, or my information from The Statesman, Vice, Criminal Minds. You had said that in an episode, and that was the first I'd heard of it. Now it's on my list of things to watch, to watch out for. Criminal Discourse Podcast, New York Daily News, Medium.com, ABC News 13 Houston, another Houston. Investigation Discovery, Ars Technica, Mental Floss.
Mental Floss. I love Mental
And
Floss.
CBC News Canada. So I went through a whole bunch of different sites for
Wait,
this one.
Canada and Houston? How far did this killer roam?
All Houston. All Houston. The Canada comes later in the...
Okay.
The reason I went to the Canada website was from information later.
Okay.
So for this is going to be The Man Who Killed Halloween.
What?
Yes. Halloween 1974. It was a chilly and rainy night in Deer Park, Texas. I just wanted to set a chilling scene. I did look at the weather for this. It was between 65 and 70. So if it was raining, maybe a little chilly.
Yeah, right on. It's Houston.
Yeah. Ronald Clark O'Brien, an optician, was out with his children, 8-year-old Timothy and 5-year-old Elizabeth, as they trick-or-treated near their suburban home. They were out with a friend of theirs, Jim Bates, and his young son. They had all been having dinner at the O'Brien house and then decided to go out trick-or-treating. And then the rain started to fall, so they decided they were only going to do 2 streets in the area. And Jim would stay on the sidewalk while Ronald would accompany the children to the various front doors.
Right on. As you do.
As you will. One of the houses along their route had all of its lights off, which, you're not supposed to go up to that, but the kids went up to the door anyway, hoping for candy, as they will. There wasn't any answer at the door, so the kids ran off, but Ronald stayed behind, just in case there was someone to answer the door.
Right on.
Ronald soon caught up with the group, and he said, "Hey, there was somebody at the house all along, and here, look, they were some rich neighbors, and gave them these, and they were the pixie sticks, 21-inch pixie sticks."
Oh, the big ones.
Yeah. So, these were big tubes with powdered candy inside, just really, really, honestly, giant tubes of sugary goodness.
Yes. Sugar and some flavoring.
Yeah, I'm going to put a picture on our webpage of them. I don't remember these being super expensive, but in 1974, I was all of 3, so who knows, maybe.
Right
They handed a tube each to each child, and then one for Jim's other child who was still at home.
Right on.
And then they gave another one to 10-year-old Whitney Parker, who Roland had recognized from church as they walked home.
Oh, hey, Whitney, here's a pixie stick for you.
Absolutely. Once they were home, Ronald allowed Timothy to have one treat for the evening. And according to Ronald, Timothy said, "I want the pixie stick."
Oh, of course he did, because it's 21 inches long.
Right. And so he opened it, but the powdered sugar was stuck in the straw. And so Ronald took it and he rolled it in his palms so that Timothy could eat it. Have you ever had a pixie stick, William? Okay. So, it'll get hard in there and you got to roll it.
Especially if it's damp out.
Right. So Timothy, ate his pixie stick. And then very soon after, he said that it tasted really bitter. So Ronald gave him some Kool-Aid to kind of wash down the taste. And then Timothy ran to the bathroom, said he was having real bad stomach pains, started convulsing and vomiting. And less than an hour later, Timothy was dead, dying on his way to the hospital. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I know. You know the story. You've heard the story. You said it made you sad as a kid.
Yes, this made me sad as a child.
Mike Hinton was a Harris County prosecutor working the police intake that night. I found this part interesting, that I didn't know prosecutors work police intake. I actually went to someone I know who's a chief of police, and I said, "Do prosecutors work police intake?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've never heard of that, but that's Houston, so maybe."
Yeah. Well, Houston in 1974.
Right.
Too.
So I had to ask. I didn't know. But Mike Hinton was there, and he got the call that an 8-year-old boy had died, and so he wanted the investigation to start right away. So he called the Harris County Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Joseph. I cannot pronounce this last name. Jakimizik. I'm going to say that. That's good. Told him what was going on.
Dr. Joe.
Or Dr. J.
Dr. J.
Dr. J immediately said, "What does Timmy's breath smell like?" And they called the morgue, and the morgue said there was a scent of almonds.
Almonds.
Of course. And Dr. J immediately said, "It's cyanide." So they immediately knew what was going on, and the autopsy would prove it correct. They found Timothy. This is what was so bad. They found Timothy had ingested enough cyanide to kill 2 people.
And he's 8?
He's 8 years old. The blood test showed that the level of cyanide in his blood was 0.4 milligrams. A fatal human dose is between 0.2 and 0.3 milligrams.
So he took double.
He took double.
A dose for
just about
a
double.
Full-grown adult.
Right. And little 8-year-old kid took. Later tests found that the top 2 inches of the pixie stick had been packed with potassium cyanide. The 4 other sticks contained enough to kill 3 to 4 adults. Police did manage to recover the remaining treats from the other children before they had a chance to open them. They noted that whomever was responsible used staples to shut the pixie stick after putting the poison inside. And the funny note about this is that staple actually saved Whitney's life, because Whitney was not strong enough to open the tube, and he had decided that was going to be his treat for the night. And they found Whitney asleep in his bed holding the pixie stick. So I was just, that just creeped me out. There was an immediate uproar in the community. Yeah. Well, I mean, parents started bringing candy in droves to the police department, fearing there was poisoning. It was reported that at one point, people brought in so much candy that it filled an entire room at the police station. So everybody's bringing their candy in.
Okay, I'm going to pause you right there. So back in the good old days, way back in the day before this happened, people wouldn't just give out candy. They would also make like cookies and cakes and candied apples.
Yeah.
And after this happened, all of that stopped.
Well, not just this. I've got more on that later, but you're right. You're right. This caused a big panic.
Yeah. Yeah, because growing up, this is what I can remember. We didn't talk about this one year, and then the next year, this is all we could talk about. And people would take their candy to the airport scanners to look for razor blades and other stuff, and it's just.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please
No,
continue.
no, I'm because I'm going to be talking about some of that stuff towards the end. So the police did take Ronald back out. They're like, okay, you got to show us this house. Where's the house that the pixie stick came from?
Yeah.
And Ronald's like, I don't remember. I just, and he was, he could have been in shock and just, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He would point out a couple of homes here and there, but then they ended up turning out to be wrong. They visited all the ones that Ronald said, well, maybe it was this one, maybe it was this one.
Yeah.
Ronald kept saying, I don't know what home, I don't even know what street, which I thought was kind of odd because they only trick-or-treated on 2 streets.
On 2 streets. Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't remember if it was on this. I just remember that the lights were out. Well, if you go in the broad daylight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember what time they said at this that they were out looking around,
Yeah.
so it could have been the day. All Ronald's told him is he never saw a face, just a hairy arm that emerged from a doorway and handed him the candy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all he can remember. Days went by, and police were becoming extremely frustrated because Ronald couldn't tell him what house.
Yeah.
So they took him out a third time, and this time they said, okay, dude, you got to figure out which house this is.
Yeah.
We got to figure out where these came from and who did this. You got to realize there is a killer out here.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Which house was it? I mean, they were apparently pretty firm with him.
Yeah, a child killer.
Right.
Yeah, this is Houston in 1974. Yeah, I imagine they're probably pretty gruff.
Well, yeah, 1974, we're on the tail end of Dean Coral.
Yes, we are.
So, but apparently when police got really, really firm with him this time, it worked, and Roland's memory was jogged, and he pointed out the house. He goes, "That's it. That's the house." The man who lived there, Courtney Melvin, was an air traffic controller shift supervisor. He wasn't home, so police immediately drove out to Houston Hobby and arrested him on the spot, right in front of all of his colleagues.
Wow.
At that point, the police were like, "Awesome, great, we've got our killer. This is over. We can close this case."
Yep.
Courtney had an alibi.
He wasn't even there.
He had been working that night, and his family corroborated it, and so did his colleagues, and there were timesheets showing he was at work when this was happening.
Yep.
Courtney's wife and daughter were actually home at the house, but they said they had run out of candy by 6:45 p.m., so they turned off the lights, and they didn't hand out pixie sticks.
Right on.
So what we thought was case closed, we've now back to square one.
Yep.
Roland, meanwhile, had some interesting things happening.
Okay.
His relatives said he got really, really angry with them. Timothy's funeral was broadcast on TV. And, well, I mean, this was a huge deal.
Yep.
And Ronald got very mad at his family because he performed a song that was at the funeral. And he got mad at his family. He was like, "Hey, aren't you going to stay up and watch this with me?"
Yeah.
And Jim Bates, the friend that was out trick-or-treating with him, said that Ronald didn't even look upset at all during the funeral.
Oh, no.
Police then discovered Ronald had taken out life insurance policies on both of his children earlier that year for $10,000 apiece and another $20,000 on each a month before Halloween. Ronald was also in debt to the tune of $100,000. And he called his insurancers at 9 a.m. the morning after Timothy's death, asking for the payout. He had also sold their family home, and they were living in a townhouse so they could cover their debts, but the debts kept growing. He owed money to a whole bunch of creditors, and he was about to lose his job because the company he worked for discovered that Ronald was stealing. And he had previously been fired from 21 other jobs in the previous 10 years.
I seem to see a pattern emerging.
Well, the police got a warrant issued to search the O'Brien house. Inside, they found a pair of scissors with plastic residue that was similar to what was on the pixie stick tubes.
Yep.
And then Ronald was taken in for questioning. While he was in there, they're bringing up more evidence. In August of 1974, Ronald had put a work request into his company, Texas State Optical, about purchasing cyanide for the purpose of cleaning gold frames. And this was found to be unusual because apparently cyanide had not been used in the optical field for about 20 years.
Right on.
Ronald was also going to community college, and he had asked his professor questions like,
What's more lethal, cyanide or another type of poison? Yeah. In September 1974, Ronald called a friend, Bobby Terry, who worked for the Arco Chemical Company. And Ronald told Terry that he was taking a chemical course at San Jacinto College, and he didn't feel his teacher knew enough about the numerous types of cyanide, and could he ask some questions?
Right on.
The questions range from where one could purchase cyanide to what would be considered a fatal dose. And he also wanted to know what procedures were used to detect an unknown chemical in a deceased body. Another man who worked at Curtin Matheson Scientific Chemical Company in Houston told police that a man had come in to buy cyanide but left after he was told that the smallest amount he could buy was 5 pounds. The man from the store could not identify Ronald, but he remembered that the customer was wearing a beige or a blue smock like a doctor, which was exactly the type of uniform Ronald would wear at work.
Okay. All right. I need you to back up for just a second. So the smallest amount of cyanide you could buy in Houston in 1974 was 5 pounds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Continue.
And he didn't want to buy 5 pounds of cyanide.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, all of this, it was hard for police to put the pixie stick in Ronald's hands because this was before DNA testing, before debit cards. And so Ronald was maintaining his innocence the whole time, and they just couldn't, they couldn't put it directly in his hands.
Yeah.
So, but didn't stop him from being put on trial.
Okay.
He did get put on trial on May 5th, 1975, and entered in a plea of not guilty, of course. His defense blamed the tainted candy on some untraceable boogeyman.
Of course. With a hairy arm.
Yeah, with a hairy arm. I thought this was just crappy. You know, I mean, I don't think we're spoiling anything here that we all think that this guy's fucking guilty.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. No. I'm with you.
But I read somewhere that during the trial, Ronald turned to the prosecutor, which was Mike Hinton, and offered him a Tootsie Roll. What a fucking piece of shit.
What a piece of shit. Would you like some candy? Not from you.
Yeah, Mike Hinton had said that Ronald was just very cocky during the whole trial, and I mean, it was just thought he was a terrible human being.
Well, I mean, he killed his own kids for profit.
Well, the case had now drawn national attention, and the press was now calling him the Candyman.
The Candyman.
So there we go. There's your little tie, which I thought was funny.
Thank you.
Ronald now had friends, family, and coworkers testifying against him. There was the chemical supply salesman who testified Ronald contacted him how to purchase cyanide. Multiple people testified that in the months before Timothy's death, Ronald showed an unusual interest in cyanide, as we talked about.
Yes.
Talked about how much it would take to kill a person.
Okay.
Ronald's sister-in-law and brother-in-law testified on the day of Timothy's funeral. Ronald spoke of using Timothy's insurance money to take a long vacation and buy other items.
Okay.
Ronald's wife, Daneen, I think that's how you pronounce it, testified that Ronald actually chose the pixie stick for Timothy, not Timothy saying, hey, I want the pixie stick. She said that Ronald said, here, you can have this one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I am trying to inhabit the brain of the other kid who didn't eat the pixie stick.
Yeah.
So this person is probably still in therapy for this.
Well, I would imagine that's very, very possible.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
Mike Hinton, in his closing argument, he said, the only inescapable conclusion is that the man killed his own flesh and blood for money. Think how easy it would be for him to kill a stranger for money.
Uh-huh.
The jury felt that the evidence was way too overwhelming to ignore, and on June 3rd, 1975, the jury deliberated for 46 minutes, came back with a verdict of guilty on 1 charge of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder for the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And a little over an hour later, Ronald was sentenced to be executed by electric chair.
Right on.
Ronald would continue to maintain his innocence and would appeal his sentence for nearly a decade.
Okay.
Shortly after his conviction, Daneen, his wife, filed for divorce.
Of course.
She said later that she believes that she was the original target.
Oh.
Right before Halloween, Ronald made an appointment for Daneen to obtain life insurance, but because they didn't have the money to pay the premiums, the appointment got canceled.
Okay.
So, yeah, she thinks she was the original target. She also did say she never cashed in on Timothy's insurance money. She said that was blood money. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Ronald's old defense attorney on his appeal hearings, this was his opening statement. As you know, my client was convicted of killing Halloween. His appeals were all denied, and on March 31st, 1984, Ronald Clark O'Brien was put to death by electric chair.
Oh, wow.
The Supreme Court had actually ruled the electric chair... I'm sorry, back up. He was not put to death by electric chair. I'm so sorry. The U.S. Supreme Court had ruled the electric chair cruel and unusual punishment, and so he was to be put to death by lethal injection.
Okay.
Ronald was the first person that was to be executed by lethal injection, but they kept getting a delay of execution while he appealed his sentence.
Right on.
The actual first person to be executed by lethal injection was Charles Brooks Jr., as the first. So I just wanted to put it in there. So Ronald was supposed to be the first, but he ended up not being. Outside of the Texas State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas, there was a crowd of 300 people who gathered to hear that the man who killed Halloween had been executed.
Right on.
They threw candy at anti-death penalty protesters and shouted, "Trick or treat!" Many people in the Deer Park area will still not celebrate Halloween. I saw a report from just last year. There's a lot of people that will not celebrate Halloween now.
Yeah.
According to the reports, people did not trick or treat in Deer Park for years.
Right on. That's a damn shame.
Yeah. And then Mike Hinton, the night that Ronald was being executed, he took a boat out on the lake in Amarillo. He knew the time the execution was going to happen. And it was said he lifted a beer in silent celebration and drifted into the darkness.
Right on.
This is the only documented case of tainted, poisoned Halloween candy.
Okay.
There's many myths far and wide of others. There are reports of sharp objects and other items in the candy, but this is the only documented case of tainted poison candy.
Well, this took off like wildfire.
Well, and this one really doesn't count as part of the myths of poison or Halloween candy because this wasn't random. It was targeted.
Yeah.
It was targeted at Timothy. Researchers have...
Wait, it was targeted at both of them. Actually, it was targeted at 4 kids.
Yeah, that's true. But it just wasn't random. It wasn't the one we were always feared of poison candy being handed out by a random stranger.
Yeah.
So this one doesn't really count with that. Researchers have not been able to substantiate a single case where a child was seriously injured, let alone killed by hazardous poison treats from random strangers.
Right on.
I do have some of the tales, though, of Halloween tampering. I just wanted to add that in here. The very first report of Halloween tampering was by a dentist named William Shine, who in 1959 gave out 450 laxative-laced candies to children in California. 30 of them fell ill, and William was charged with outrage of public decency and unlawful dispensing of drugs.
Right on.
In 1964...
He gave the kids X-Lax.
He did. He gave them X-Lax.
Chocolate X-Lax.
In 1964, Helen Pafil, a 47-year-old mother from Greenlawn, New York, she handed out bags of treats containing arsenic-laced ant traps, metal mesh scrubbing pads, and dog biscuits.
Okay.
She said she didn't mean it maliciously and was just annoyed at Halloween.
Right on.
She got committed to a state hospital.
Right on.
Timothy Tolston, he died from a deadly dose of heroin that they blamed on being in candy when actually he found his uncle's stash and ate the heroin himself. Yeah.
Oh, hey, look, candy.
There was a 9-year-old boy who presumably died from tainted candy, but actually he succumbed to a pre-existing heart condition.
Okay.
In 2000, this is what's funny. In 2000, a man who worked in the dead letter office at a local post office found a bag of Snickers in a lost package and began giving them out as treats. They were full of marijuana.
Right on. That's pretty funny. Hey, man, let's get the mail out. Okay, man.
Great Nyborg, man.
Great Nyborg.
Also in 2000, there was a man named James Joseph Smith who allegedly stuck needles in Snicker bars as he handed them out to trick-or-treaters. There was one teenager that was pricked by one of the needles, but not serious enough to even need a doctor.
Right on.
Smith would be charged with one count of adulterating a substance with intent to cause death, harm, or illness. Since 1959, there have been around 80 reports of sharp objects in candy, but most of these turned out to be hoaxes and often were a prank by a relative or friend. What the hell kind of prank is that?
Yeah. Oh, here.
I don't understand.
Spring Surprise by the Crunchy Frog Company.
Right.
Wizzo chocolate.
And with that, that's the story of the Candy Man, or the man who killed Halloween.
Well, screw that guy.
I know.
What a piece of crap.
Well, he's dead.
Yes.
He got put to death, which I think was probably the right thing to do. You know, I go back and forth whether I support death penalty or not. You know, I could be popular here, unpopular. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, on this particular one, yeah, he probably needed to die.
Yeah, he definitely needed to be removed from society. I can say that.
Yeah. Sorry this made you sad. I know you knew you were familiar with the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't know it was their own dad that did it. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I am sorry about the effect that it had.
Oh, sure.
Because it killed parts of Halloween that were, you know.
For lots of people.
Yeah. Because there are people who, they would have recipes for super triple dipped candy apples and stuff that they would only do for Halloween, and they'd make them, and when they ran out, they ran out.
Right.
But,
no, I remember that as I was growing up, your parents went through your candy, and if there was anything that wasn't factory wrapped, it went in the trash.
It got thrown away.
There would be reports that I remember they would send stuff home from school. Hey, for Halloween, please make sure it's wrapped candy, factory wrapped. Please don't be giving, caramel popcorn, candy apples, things like that, because everybody was terrified of the razor blades, the needles, the poison. Yeah. And so everything had to be factory wrapped. And this was probably the biggest case of what caused the big fear, because this was national news. They caught somebody who tampered with Halloween candy. So there you go. Ronald Clark O'Brien is the man who, started your fears as a child with that.
Yes. And ruined Halloween.
The man who killed Halloween.
Bastard.
So, hope everyone enjoyed our first Halloween episode.
Okay.
Hopefully we have many more in the future.
Yes.
Hopefully we last that long.
Yeah, right on.
But yeah, good times. Gave out movies for people to watch. Had a nice little murdery story for your Halloween. Maybe you can use that as your campfire tale. I don't know. Whatever.
Yes.
So that
bastard.
That takes us to the end of this recording week. Again, happy Halloween, everybody. Be safe out there.
Yep.
As usual, you can find us on our website, nerderymurdery.com. That's where all of our contact information is.
Yes.
You can see links from this episode, as well as pictures, past episodes as well. I forgot to say today. It's actually it's in the past now, but when episode 10 drop, our merchandise is live. We have merch on our page.
Merch, peoples.
Yeah. So it's just the start, it's just the beginning. We have just a few things out there, but we do have merch. People have asked for it. We've got stuff with our logo on it that people can go out there and order. So please do check out our website. As we do have information out there for every episode. You can find all of our social media on our website as well. You can find a link to our Patreon if you wish to support our show. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you.
And, you can find us on all of our social media. As I said that already. Wow. I lost myself in this.
That's all right.
So that's the end of our week.
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.